Hello, beautiful people. My name is Brian Steele, and I'm grateful you have decided to join us for another one of our 5-minute messages. In the next couple of minutes, I just want to give a reflection, theological reflection, on an incident that happened this past weekend. Late this past Saturday night in Colorado Springs, a man entered a club, Club Q, which is a safe place for the LGBTQIA plus community. And this man shot and killed 5 precious people and injured 25 more. I'm not going to get into the legal details of this, but as a follower of Jesus, I am called to speak theological truth. And the truth is that homophobia, transphobia, which frankly led to these type of events, is sin. Any phobia against any group of people is sin. And I think that the church needs to be honest that we are perhaps the biggest perpetrator in these sins becoming the problem they have become. Because when I read about these incidents, I can't help but think how the LGBTQIA plus community has found greater safety and belonging in a bar than a church. It's a result of how we've treated people. It's a result of how we have sinned against God's children. Now, for myself, my own theological studies, the work I've done, I have come to believe that same-gender relationships and anybody who identifies as LGBTQIA+, are not only compatible with Christian teaching, but are to be celebrated as part of God's diversity. I have served LGBTQ people, invited them into all levels of leadership, and I will minister to LGBTQIA+ couples and individuals the same way I would any straight or cisgender person. And I also want to acknowledge that I've been a pastor to people who don't share those convictions that I hold. I have friendships and relationships with other clergy who disagree with me. A lot do agree with me, but not everyone does. And that's okay. That's not the problem we're talking about today. There's a difference between homophobia and having different conclusions. Because I know a lot of clergy who don't agree with me. They truly seek to be loving and accepting as best as their faith allows them to be. They're trying to live within this tension of, I believe this, but I recognize your sacred worth and that you deserve to be treated with love and kindness. And I've seen some people do that pretty well. So the issue isn't whether we're completely open and affirming. The issue is that this has become fear-based sin. Because at least from my perspective, if the church in the past 60-ish years had acted in more loving ways, even if amidst different opinions and beliefs, we wouldn't have situations like what happened in Colorado Springs. We wouldn't have situations like what happened in Orlando. There wouldn't be a need for Transgender Day of Remembrance like we just had on this past Sunday, because that violence would not be tolerated. At least in every Christian-based tradition that I know of, which the Christian tradition is far and wide. We all share this core belief that everyone is made in the image of God. But we have not treated our siblings in the LGBTQIA community like they are. We have not talked about We've not talked about them in ways that show that they reflect God's image. In our apathy, in our fear, it has given space for viruses like this to grow. It has given space for events like Colorado Springs to happen. In Orlando before this, and far too many other places before that too. Early on in my ministry career, I was doing ministry with a colleague who I really appreciated and respected, and I don't think he shared the same convictions that I did. We never talked explicitly about it, but I remember once when he said this: when somebody's rights are being stepped on, you say something. Might not be verbatim what he said, but it was the gist of it. And my colleague was recognized the humanity of people who are different from him, that he was willing to stand alongside them in Christian love if somebody sought to harm them. So in the church, we can't be silent. And at least 40, from the last statistics I saw, around 40% of homeless youth identify as LGBTQ because they were kicked out of their homes, and personally I'm guessing at least a decent portion of those homes were probably Christian, or at least faith-based. We need to say something. When our beliefs lead to harm, we should probably question some of our beliefs. Friends, I didn't choose to be straight. I just remember one time in 5th grade, looked over at a friend, a girl who I'd known for years, and started to get some butterflies in my stomach. And others have had those same experiences. It's just been with someone of the same gender. And because they have those experiences, they shouldn't have to live in fear. The church should be the safe place where people can find belonging. And I think we should have conversations about how we can do this better. A lot of churches have made great strides, but there's clearly more work to do. So for now, I just want to share the 5 names, the 5 image bearers of God, 5 of God's children who lost their lives in Colorado Springs. Daniel Austin, Ashley Paul, Kelly Loving, Derek Rump, Raymond Vance. Image bearers of God. People God loved even if the church didn't. Let's be a community of love. Even when we aren't in total agreement. Like this movement founder John Wesley said, if we can't think alike, let us all love alike. It's possible. Believe it or not. Because God loves each and every one of us, and there's nothing any of us can do about it. Alright. We'll see you next time on our next 5-minute message.